All right, you are here, let me guess, most likely because you heard the name Worldcoin and wondered what it could possibly be. Oh, happy days, because that's precisely what we're here to discuss. Worldcoin, in essence, is an attempt at creating digital authentication for human beings, also known as World ID. In order to do this, the company behind the project, called Tools for Humanity, if you can believe that, has created a cryptocurrency called Worldcoin, which will be used to facilitate what's called a Universal Basic Income, also known as UBI for all of its users. Sounds like utopia, right? Baseline, it really does sound like some sort of utopia. Probably not. In order to make such an idea possible, Worldcoin requires authentication, of course. Establishing a World ID is only as good as your ability to make sure those identification credentials are accurate. And the chosen method in play here for today is actually detailed scans of a person's biometrics, primarily their iris. Just to make sure people are following along, parent organization Tools for Humanity is what it's called, co-founded by Sam Altman, who is also a central figure behind OpenAI and ChatGPT, has now co-founded a crypto token called Worldcoin, which aims to become a global identification system providing universal basic income to those that verify themselves through biometric iris scans. In addition, during July of 2023, Sam Altman had this to say, quote, "The goal is simple, a global financial and identity network based on proof of personhood. This feels especially important in the AI era. I'm hopeful Worldcoin can contribute to conversations about how we share access, benefits, and governance of future AI systems." End quote. He goes on to cite a growing user base of over 2 million users and shout out all of his haters as well, but the foundation here is quite simple. The same man who currently controls a private company called OpenAI, largely viewed to be the frontrunners in an artificial intelligence technology arms race, is also testifying in front of United States Congress that AI poses an extinction-level risk to humanity. In addition, he claims that AI has already begun destroying multiple career fields, but in tandem, he pushes forward with a cryptocurrency-based World ID built on biometric data to combat the problem of knowing what is or is not real in the digital landscape of generative AI. In effect, to really boil it down, Sam Altman is playing both sides of the coin toss right now. I think it's pretty important that we all consider the fact that the same man aggressively pursuing the development of AI models like ChatGPT is the same man claiming that artificial general intelligence poses an extinction-level risk to all of us, and is also the same man now selling a claimed solution to the problem that scans your biometric data, but that's not even the main point of today's video. Just keep it in mind because it is worth mentioning right from the get-go. Worldcoin hit the main stage in late July 2023, I believe, with its official launch program in 11 major US cities with 35 cities globally. Those cities are located in 20 different countries, but critical to understand here is that nearly all current users of the ecosystem were signed up during a beta phase. Now, in order to have a strong understanding of the project itself, we need strong definitions. When I say the word ecosystem, I'm referring to a three-pillar concept. First is the World ID, which you get from scanning your eyes. All right, that's pillar number one. Second is what's called the World App, which is basically a crypto wallet tied to this World ID. That's pillar number two. And third is the WLD, World Crypto Token, which is the thing that everybody really wants, the money. Worldcoin isn't just a token, it's an ecosystem, like I said, and that ecosystem is basically a global human identification method with a new type of currency, cryptocurrency attached to it, on top of a payment processor platform that only works if you scan your iris, right? Cool stuff. Well, no, not cool. All of this may be fantastic as a sort of utopian science fiction novel, but the truth is, reality is rarely accommodating of that. Setting aside the hilarious chain of events where the number one trending topic on Twitter, Worldcoin, with millions of tweets in the business finance section for an entire week when it launched, was just phishing scams and malware, we can focus on things like this. During 2021, as Worldcoin was winding up and raising money, institutional and angel investors at the time included Three Arrows Capital and Sam Bankman-Fried. The former is now bankrupt, and the latter indicted for massive fraud. So that's not a good start. Additionally, since the token had roughly 2 million users from a pre-existing beta phase, like we emphasized earlier, it came to light that those users had been majority acquired from developing nations like Indonesia and Cambodia. According to MIT Technology Review, which interviewed 35 people in 6 countries, Worldcoin had used deceptive marketing practices, collected more personal data than it acknowledged, and failed to obtain meaningful informed consent. Basically, Worldcoin was getting traction by targeting developing nations or countries and paying people a small portion of cryptocurrency in return for their biometric data. To keep things in perspective, generally speaking, let's recap. The same man who serves right now as the CEO of OpenAI claims that AI itself is an existential threat to humanity. Meanwhile, he co-founds a private company to supplant existing identification and finance systems globally and immediately targets developing or poverty-stricken nations around the world. Regardless of how you slice it, that looks pretty bad. What's worse, World ID appears to already have black market troubles. Reported by Blockbeats Asia, a market rapidly sprang up where citizens in Africa were having their biometric data scanned and sold to mainland China, so that financial speculators in that region could have access to the crypto token in larger quantities. I know it sounds dystopian, and people sort of tune out when that happens, right? They don't really follow along. But poor people in developing nations are being tricked into handing over detailed scans of their eyes so that people in other parts of the world can speculate on a volatile crypto asset. That's really, really dark. There are root-level inherent problems here. Another example reported by TechCrunch would be when Worldcoin operators had their accounts compromised, which means, I know this is a harsh way to say it, but I feel it to be justified. It means that the bridge between poor people and a global identification system is not just vulnerable, it's downright insecure. The entire premise of World ID is that it will serve as valid authentication for all human people, but when biometric data from developing nations like Cambodia, one of the poorest countries in the entire world, where a third of its citizens live on less than $1 a day, is acquired on a black market and sold to criminals in other countries, that's a problem. Still further, the distribution model of Worldcoin is lockstep similar to that of a multi-level marketing scheme. Becoming an orb operator pays out based on how many people you convince to sign up, and every new sign-up is enticed by the airdrop that they themselves will subsequently get. Logically, the end result has become a network of affiliates working with each other to push the product on financially desperate peers trying to maximize their own revenue through getting subsequent users. This becomes self-evident just by scrolling a social media feed for a couple of minutes. One example in particular that made me, personally, sort of dejectedly laugh was right here. Halfway through, it transitions to an AI voice that describes how amazing Worldcoin is, and that's the type of viral spread that the project is now fully facilitating. Remember, I didn't make a big deal out of it. Some people may have even glossed right over and not heard it, but for almost an entire week post-launch, the top trending hashtag on all of Twitter, with millions of tweets and engagement metrics all over, was bot-generated Worldcoin phishing and malware scams. All of that, and we haven't even talked about the token allocation. Remember, Worldcoin is supposed to facilitate a universal basic income and be the foundation of a new global payment structure. But 25%, that's actually risen from 20% prior, it's increased. 25% of the entire supply is pre-allocated to developers and early investors. Early investors, need I remind you, like Sam Bankman-Fried and bankrupt crypto hedge fund Three Arrows Capital. Now, the goal of this isn't to tell people how they should think. The goal of this is to raise questions. For example, how should we feel about a private company supposedly intending to create a new global identification and payment system, pre-allocating 25% of the currency involved to insiders? Sam Altman appears to view and discuss Worldcoin as a solution to wealth or income inequality. And when it comes to media, that message is far stronger. As reported by Quartz, quote, Altman has now been an advocate of universal basic income as a way to tackle income inequality. He believes that Worldcoin could help eliminate fraud if governments decide to adopt it in distributing UBI to their citizens, end quote. With a subsequent quote from Altman himself reading, Worldcoin is an attempt at global scale alignment. The journey will be challenging and the outcome is uncertain. But finding new ways to broadly share the coming technological prosperity is a critical challenge of our time, end quote. This requires the question, whose prosperity are we talking about? With 25% of the entire supply already reserved, while a hefty chunk of that is directed at existing hedge funds and venture capital firms, why should we trust that the company now scanning our eyeballs is doing so for the benefit of the people and not doing so for the sole benefit of itself at the expense of the people? If the product is free, you are the product, and Worldcoin pays people to hand over their biometric and other data. The policy page and legal disclosures are very clearly designed to alleviate concern on that topic from the public, with a great deal of language about how they never disclose things without your consent or only use the data that they collect to improve their own services, etc., then it'll be deleted. But the sum total of the relationship you have with this company is, trust me, bro, a private global identification and monetary system run through us exclusively is a great idea. The primary benefactor here, the only benefactor really, is authoritarianism. World ID and its conjoined financial arm Worldcoin are a mechanism where, if adopted, people can simply be surveilled and controlled completely. A crypto token that targets the financially unstable, or those in developing nations, even so far as to start having larger influencer campaigns to spike adoption, might seem like a good idea, but the cost you are required to pay, beyond the pennies that you get back in the short term, which is the incentive most people are latching onto, is so incredibly high it boggles the mind. Put it this way. If you are truly afraid of AI, artificial intelligence, or AGI, artificial general intelligence, either or, if you really do believe it poses an extinction-level threat to humanity, why would you start using a purely digital, crypto-driven ID and currency system through a centralized Silicon Valley tech company? What possible way will that help you against AI? Yeah, short-term, it could maybe present itself as a way to verify what is or is not human-generated, but long-term, you are simply leaning into a system that is hyper-susceptible to all of the scary dystopian things that we are afraid AI might actually do to us, if it ever gets smart enough. If you were actually afraid, you would want less of your information digitized. You would want less of your data in the hands of Silicon Valley private companies, and you would want more emphasis on physical payment processing, like cash, for example. In the end, the adoption curve of Worldcoin remains yet to be seen. Will it be accepted, promoted, and applauded with mass adoption, or will it be torn down and criticized for the reckless danger it may likely present? I can't say for sure, but I guess we'll find out soon enough. The targets they have internally seem to be something like 1 billion users in the first couple of years. Very ambitious, so we'll see how that goes. For now, though, that's about it. If you want to support, there are links down below. Also, a reminder that there is a GoFundMe down there as well. I'm currently battling an $11 million spurious defamation lawsuit, and we'll be dealing with that in the background if you want to chime in and support on there. There are some YouTube alternatives, other platforms, social media, subscriptions, etc., etc. Also, feel free to let me know in the comments down below what you think of Worldcoin. Is it a utopian, awesome, fantastic thing that you're looking forward to scanning your eye and getting your 25 little funny money, monopoly money tokens? Or is it something scary because you don't really want a private company to have that information for whatever they choose, and you don't necessarily think that it's a good idea to have one central entity control the entire world's payment and identification systems? This thing is weird. Anyway, I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching. Worldcoin is kind of a crazy concept to begin with, and have a nice night.